This is a very important message for you today. Do not ignore it. Pay attention to this message. My beloved child, listen carefully. If you trust in God, type Amen. You've always felt it, haven't you? A quiet pull. A question that never fully left your heart. A whisper in your spirit that said, "There's more to my story than they ever told me." You grew up in a home where things looked fine on the outside, but underneath the surface, something never quite added up. People smiled. They laughed. They celebrated holidays and spoke of love, but the air often carried something else: secrets, silence, unspoken pain. And now, without warning, without anyone's permission, heaven has decided to speak. Archangel Michael stands not in fury, not in anger, but in truth. And he isn't shouting. He's revealing. Not to expose anyone out of revenge, but to release you from a version of your life that was never the full picture. Because some of the stories you were told, they were edited. Some of the people you were taught to trust, they wore love like a costume, but their hearts were stitched with control and fear. Not because they were evil, but because they never dealt with their own pain. And now, that pain has been passed like inheritance, generation to generation, until it quietly landed at your feet. But Archangel Michael whispers now, not in panic, but in clarity, you were never meant to carry what they couldn't heal. You are not their mistakes. You are not their silence. And I have come to return what was stolen from your understanding. This truth isn't meant to break you. It's meant to break the cycle. The reason you felt different from them, the reason you've sensed something sacred inside you even when others dismissed you, it wasn't in your head. It was heaven reminding you, you were set apart to see what they refused to face. Michael shows you the moments they covered up. The decisions made behind closed doors. The alliances built on fear. The reason certain things were never discussed in front of you. You see it now, don't you? The strange tension that would rise when certain names came up. The way conversations shifted. The stories that never quite made sense. You weren't imagining it. You were discerning it. But here's the sacred truth: this message isn't about them. It's about you. About reclaiming the voice you weren't allowed to use. About healing from wounds you were never supposed to inherit. You are not here to judge your family. You are here to heal what they could not. You are the one chosen to end what started before you were born. And Archangel Michael leans in closer, his words now like light in a dark room. You've cried without knowing why. You felt heavy without explanation. That's not weakness. That's memory, spiritual memory passed through blood and silence. But now, the veil is lifting. Now, the truth is rising. Now, you get to live without pretending. This isn't a warning. It's an invitation to understand your past without being controlled by it. To name what was hidden, not to shame it, but to finally release it. You are not here to expose anyone else. You are here to uncover yourself. And what you will find under all that silence is a soul far stronger than anyone ever told you. And as the light of heaven wraps around your awareness, Michael ends this part with words not of judgment, but of recognition. You were always meant to know. And now that you do, nothing can ever silence your truth again. There's something sacred about finally knowing. Even if it hurts. Even if it cracks the version of your story you grew up believing. There's power in truth, not the kind that shouts and demands, but the kind that enters gently and settles where the ache has been for years. You never had all the facts, but you had feelings. You felt the distance in someone's eyes. You felt the tension in the air during family gatherings. You sensed that there was more to your childhood than the words they offered could explain. And now, through the soft unfolding of heaven's voice, you understand, your spirit was never confused. It was discerning. Archangel Michael speaks not as a judge, but as a witness. They didn't hide the truth to hurt you. They hid it because they didn't know how to face it themselves. They were raised in silence, taught to bury pain. And in doing so, they passed down wounds dressed as tradition. But you were born different. You didn't fit into the pattern. You asked too many questions. You felt too deeply. And because they didn't know how to handle your light, they tried to dim it. Not with cruelty, but with control. Not with hatred, but with fear that you might uncover what they couldn't protect anymore. And now, the weight of that silence has landed on your shoulders, not as punishment, but as calling. Because it ends with you. You are not here to destroy what they built. You are here to cleanse what was never meant to be inherited. You are the one born to see, to speak, to free. Think of the moments that never made sense. The family member who distanced themselves for no reason. The story that changed every time someone else told it. The pain in your parents' eyes that had no name. These were not accidents. These were signs. Pieces of a larger truth held together by silence, and now, lovingly being loosened by light. You weren't given this truth to carry bitterness. You were entrusted with it because heaven saw your heart could carry both compassion and courage. You're not here to confront them. You're here to understand yourself. To see your life not as a series of unanswered questions, but as a map, leading you to freedom, authenticity, and wholeness. Archangel Michael speaks once more, with divine calm. You're not just healing your story. You're breaking the silence for generations who never had the words. You are the voice your ancestors prayed would rise. And now that you've seen, you will never unsee. But that is not a curse, it is a calling. This moment is not about blame. It's about permission. Permission to feel what you never got to say out loud. Permission to name the pain without guilt. Permission to stand in your truth, not in rebellion, but in reclamation. You are not the problem. You are the answer. The bridge between the pain they pass down and the healing that begins with you. And as your spirit begins to feel the weight of generations releasing their hold, Michael closes this chapter with quiet assurance. What was hidden was never meant to punish you. It was waiting. Waiting for someone strong enough to hold the truth, and still walk in love. And heaven chose you. It's strange, isn't it? How silence can shape a person. How what was never said can echo louder than whatever was. You didn't grow up with all the details, but you grew up with the weight. With the looks that said, "Don't ask." With the conversations that stopped when you entered the room. With the emotional coldness that no one ever addressed but everyone learned how to survive. And without realizing it, you became fluent in avoidance. You knew how to read a room before you knew how to read a book. You learned to keep your questions tucked behind your tongue, your pain wrapped beneath your patience. And now, all these years later, Archangel Michael gently steps into that space, not to expose your family, but to set you free from what their silence cost you. You were never supposed to carry what they didn't heal, he says softly. You were never meant to inherit their fear of truth. But because your heart was open, because your soul was sensitive, you absorbed more than anyone ever realized. It makes sense now, doesn't it? Why you second-guess your instincts. Why you wrestle with trust, even when love feels close. Why you feel like you're constantly apologizing for your existence, even when you've done nothing wrong. You were raised in emotional shadows, and yet somehow, your spirit still reached for the light. That's why this truth matters, not to reopen old wounds, but to close what was never properly acknowledged. This isn't about blaming the people who didn't know better. It's about finally releasing yourself from a history you didn't write, but were asked to live in. And now, you don't have to anymore. Your life is no longer a response to pain, the letter had said. It is a rhythm of peace. And now, you understand it. You feel it. In the way people start to share stories with you they've never told anyone. In the way children instinctively move closer to you. In the way even silence feels full when you are in it. You are not a savior. You are a sanctuary. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've made peace with your own questions. And that is rare. That is holy. Michael doesn't speak now. He doesn't need to. The message has become your energy. And the letter? It's no longer something you read. It's something you are. There are no trumpets. No thunder in the sky. just a stillness that feels holy. A hush that settles like a soft wind across your chest, letting you know something sacred has just been sealed. Not outside of you, but within you. Archangel Michael does not raise his voice. He lowers it. Because true power doesn't shout, it settles. He looks at you now, not with instruction in his eyes, but with something deeper. Recognition. He sees the truth you've stepped into. He sees that the letter no longer needs to be read, because every part of it now lives in your breath, your choices, your presence. Heaven has seen your return. Not your return to religion or ritual, but to remembrance. And now, it offers not more words, but a confirmation. A divine nod that says, "It is done." You are no longer becoming, Michael says gently. You have become. Not perfect, but present. Not without scars, but no longer defined by them. You carry your story like light now, not like weight. And that changes everything. You no longer resist your softness. You walk in it. You no longer apologize for your discernment. You trust it. You no longer wait to be told who you are. You know. And that knowing has awakened something in heaven too. A celebration. Not loud, but deep. The kind that happens when a soul finally remembers what it was sent to be. You were never here just to get through life. You were here to change how life feels for others. You are not just the end of a curse, the message says. You are the beginning of a blessing. One that will flow through every conversation, every decision, every generation that follows you. You've shifted the entire rhythm of your bloodline. Not with grand gestures, but with your return to your true name, the one heaven gave you long before the world told you who to be. And now, heaven marks this moment. Not with a command, but with a blessing. A still, clear whisper in the very center of your being that says, "Walk as who you truly are now. And watch the world change around you." It doesn't look like much from the outside. There's no applause. No lightning in the sky. The people around you may not even notice anything has changed. But you know. Deep in your chest. In the rhythm of your breath. In the way you sit differently now. Walk differently. Speak less but say more. You've entered the part of your life where you no longer need to chase anything, because what's meant for you now recognizes you. You've shifted from proving to radiating. From surviving to resting in your knowing. That doesn't mean you're idle. It means every step you take now is guided, not by panic, but by presence. Archangel Michael stands a few steps behind, not because he's distant, but because he no longer needs to lead. You're not being protected in front of danger anymore. You're being trusted to navigate peace. This is what it means to walk in alignment. Not perfection. Not certainty. Just full alignment with what your soul always knew but had forgotten beneath years of noise. You are allowed to receive now. You don't need to force anything into your life anymore, the letter had said. Because now that you carry clarity, clarity will come to you. And it's true. You begin to notice how the wrong things start falling away without conflict. The people who once drained your energy simply grow quiet. The situations that once pulled you into confusion no longer even tempt your attention. You don't rise to every battle. You rest in your peace. And that peace is powerful. Not because it's loud, but because it's undeniable. You are now living in response to truth, Michael says softly. Not to trauma. You begin to dream differently now. Not from lack, but from possibility. Not from urgency, but from deep trust that what is yours cannot pass you. That what your ancestors hoped for is already beginning to bloom through you. And the world starts to notice. Not because you announce it, but because when you walk into a space, things shift. Without trying. Without explaining. You've become the answer to prayers that were never even said out loud. Because now you walk with quiet authority. The kind that says, I am here. Fully. Finally. And completely. And heaven smiles. Because this is what they knew you'd become. There is no final page. No stamped ending. Because this letter was never meant to close, it was meant to continue. And now, it does. Through you. Through how you show up, how you speak, how you love, how you listen, not just when it's easy, but when it's sacredly hard. You are the letter now. Every room you walk into carries a quiet shift because of it. Not because you carry a message you memorized, but because you've become a message lived. One that says, healing is possible. Softness is strength. Presence is enough. And peace isn't just a prayer, it's a posture. Archangel Michael doesn't leave. He steps back, into a watchful stillness. Not to disappear, but to witness. He sees what the world will soon see, a soul fully returned. A legacy rewritten. A human who is no longer waiting to be saved, but is gently, quietly saving the atmosphere around them. And heaven? It doesn't celebrate with noise. It celebrates with alignment. With orchestration. With opportunities that now begin to flow, not because you're hustling, but because you're finally aligned with what's always been yours. You are no longer searching for the message, Michael says one final time. Because you are now living in such a way that others begin to remember their own. That is how the bloodline changes. Not by loud declarations, but by someone deciding to live whole. You did not erase the past. You honored it. You walked through it. You transformed it by choosing presence over performance, truth over silence, and peace over legacy-bound fear. Now, the letter has taken new form. A living, breathing form. Yours. And the world will read it, not with eyes, but with feeling. They will feel safe around you. Seen around you. Stronger near you. Not because you tried to be anything, but because you finally remembered everything. This is not the end. It's the continuation. And you are the proof. There was a time when you needed protection. When angels stood at the corners of your life, shielding you from truths too sharp, too early, too much. You were tender. And heaven honored that. But something has shifted now. You are still tender, but you are also wise. You are still soft, but you are now anchored. And because of this, heaven no longer hides the truth from you. It entrusts it to you. You have become what they were waiting for. A keeper of light. A holder of lineage. Not a loud one. A quiet one. The kind that doesn't need to be recognized, because your work is not for display. It's for impact. And it's already happening. Children feel safe in your energy. Strangers feel peace in your silence. The people who once couldn't open up to anyone, open up to you. And you're not surprised anymore. Because you've stopped asking, why me, and started remembering, because it's what I was made for. Archangel Michael walks beside you now, not in defense, but in camaraderie. You are no longer guarded. You are guided. And the guidance comes from within. A steady inner whisper that knows what to say without needing to speak. That knows when to walk away without needing to explain. That knows when to rest, when to rise, when to offer, and when to simply be. This is not the role you trained for. It's the role your soul was born to carry. You are no longer a receiver of messages, heaven says now. You are the messenger. Not of loud prophecies or grand visions, but of the kind of message that enters a room as calm, walks with humility, and leaves everyone feeling lighter. You were never meant to just break chains. You were meant to build new paths. And now, as you move forward, you'll notice something different. Your blessings don't feel like lightning bolts. They feel like alignment. Ease. Gentle open doors that no longer need to be kicked down, just quietly walked through. This is your inheritance. Not the weight of your bloodline, but the light it now carries, because of you. Michael doesn't speak again. He nods. Not out of duty, but out of honor. Because heaven sees what you've become. And more importantly, you see it too. This is who you are now. Unshaken. unforced, unapologetically whole. And from this day on, wherever you go, heaven goes with you, not ahead to shield, but beside you, to walk in your light. If you believe in God, type Amen or 444 or 555 or 000 111. Subscribe for more videos.